World of Tanks Modern Armour is Wargaming's little tester project for modern tanks in World of Tanks, and today's video we see how well it's fared on console and if modern tanks should be further developed in the game and added to the other World of Tanks franchise products such as World of Tanks PC and World of Tanks Blitz. Now, as a little introduction to this video, for those of you not familiar with console World of Tanks that encompasses both PlayStation and Xbox versions, it is a MMO tank game that has recently been developed by Wargaming to introduce a whole new era of tanks, being that of the post-World War II tanks. This was the biggest update I have ever recalled, and I've been playing for 7 years, and I certainly think a lot of the older players would probably agree. Wargaming's introduction of modern tanks and the heavy development into this new game has led to a few problems straight off the bat for the veteran players and the players already invested into the game prior to such an update in World of Tanks. Of course, with every game-changing update within any game that you play, people get salty, and of course, I'm not going to lie, when the update came out, it seemed very, very lackluster for myself, both in execution of the game and the overarching theme surrounding World of Tanks as a franchise. It just didn't seem to fit. Now, the original update had such a limited variety of tanks that it seemed very boring, so you only had 2 tank lines that you could go down, they're linear, so there was only one tank every time you go through the tech tree, which is the branch of tanks that you can get within this new game mode that is called Modern Armour. Not only this, they also added in a lot of the tanks that were previously already in the game, called them new tanks, but put them in this new game mode, and yes, you probably only actually had about 10 brand new tanks within the Cold War game mode, as a lot of the early line progression tanks were actually tanks that we already had, things like the T-54, the M46 Patton. A lot of them, every single person within the game, if you've been playing for a little bit of time, would have played at least one of them already, and so that's kind of led to the fact that a lot of players didn't really want to get involved with this game mode and getting actually stuck in, because it's just a tank that they've already played, and if they want to actually grind through and get to those brand new things like the M1A2 Abrams and some of the T-72 variants that are in Cold War, and yes, you're going to have some kind of problems grinding through. Now, coupled with the fact that many players saw this as a failure and the initial costs of the tanks and the silver economy, which is the free-to-play currency in World of Tanks console, caused a controversy both with the community and at Wargaming, as complaints came in bucket loads. Now, as for problems with Modern Armour, and trust me, there were and still are problems that push people away from the game mode and World of Tanks console itself. One of the key things I found to be a problem within the Cold War game mode, especially straight off the bat, was the silver economy. Now, as far as the package costs and upgrading your tanks, as you see within many of the World of Tanks franchise games, you have to grind through, you get XP for playing the game, you then use your silver, which is the currency of the game, to be able to upgrade your tank to the next level, and that's kind of what's the problem within Cold War, at least when you first start playing, because often you're not making too much silver, and when the upgrades cost 1.1 million silver, which may take you probably 20 games just to upgrade your tank, at which point you've already unlocked the next tank in the line, which costs you yet again probably 4 million silver to pick up. At least that is within the Cold War game mode anyway. Now, we meet the problem of running out of silver very, very quickly, especially without premium time or premium tanks, which, by the way, will set you about $40 now. So that's going to cost you $40 for any of the Cold War premium tanks currently, because none of them have actually gone on sale for any sizable discount. And of course, if you want to purchase 365 days of premium account time, that's going to cost you $80 for the year. Of course, you can buy it in little bulk chunks like 7 days, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg if you want to do that for any long period of time, at which point you probably will have left World of Tanks anyway. Now, yes, you can earn upwards of 400,000 silver per battle, depending on your skill level, silver booster, premium tank, and premium time, all combined. But for the casual player, which Wargaming are aiming their game towards, it's not particularly easy to get into, at least that game mode. And I think that the Cold War game mode is actually meant to be available for new players as a way to get into the game, it leaves me questioning just how it's available, considering the progression and almost requirement to pay money towards this free-to-play game. Now, silver economy is not the only problem players found with Modern Armour. It was also the core game mechanics that changed and that are specific to the game mode, such as the way you can visually spot opponents changed with the implementation of the update and Wargaming's so-called True Vision. True Vision is the aspect of the game whereby the opponents are always rendered within the game. Whether or not you actually spot them and they get lit up on the map, they're actually constantly rendered into the game. So for those of you PC players or Blitz players that may be playing the game currently and you want to check out World of Tanks console, well, basically, the spotting mechanics don't really work anymore on this game mode, at least. Of course, the actual standard World War II game mode still has the original mechanics whereby you have to actually come within the view range of your tank and be able to spot them. Yes, that still works on the new game mode, but it kind of becomes irrelevant because the tanks are always spotted within the game anyway, and so to get assistance damage is almost pointless unless you really want to get excellent marks of excellence and the other associated things within it. I personally find it a mechanic that removes an aspect of skill from the game, and there are a whole load of problems that can arise from this type of mechanic within the game, whereby camping and playing more passively tends to lead to better results, which in turn leads to slower gameplay pace and thus less exciting or riveting gameplay in World of Tanks, where often teams either win or lose by landslide margins. Such slow gameplay can stop new players from getting excited about the game, and then that basically just leads to them stopping playing and, more importantly, stopping paying. So that's one of the key problems. Wargaming don't seem to be able to snatch players, keep them hooked on the game. It seems to be very much a fast fashion almost. They come in, they think tanks, wow, brilliant. Hey, play 5 games, and then they're like, well, this is rubbish, let's leave again. And that is kind of the aspect of this tank game in particular that I just don't think Wargaming have got quite right, and I'm really hoping that in the future that changes. The limited tanks within the game mode on launch also added to the negativity towards the game mode, as players get bored very quickly, and if you don't keep developing quick enough, whereby you're releasing some new content to a new game mode within maybe the first week, the next week, and the further, like maybe a fortnight, then yeah, you're going to end up with this kind of lower player base numbers as people just get bored. They leave the game mode, and you'll see that within the server statistics since the launch of Modern Armour, and can mean that many players are thinking that the game is in decline and wondering if console World of Tanks for both PS4 and Xbox One has the longevity needed to weather the storm. As for my opinion on the Modern Tanks, I believe it's somewhat of a good idea that's been mishandled by Wargaming's developers due to the disconnect historically with the majority of the player base, leading to players feeling like the developers have no idea what the community want. Now, this has started to change slowly in the form of the new community liaison, although he's been here for like a year now and done a fantastic job from what was previously engaged by Wargaming with the community, because there just literally was no community aspect to the game, at least directly from Wargaming themselves. And however, yes, you can say he is a great community liaison. He is just one man, and it means that many messages go unanswered. There are thousands of messages that go out every single week, and one person can only go through so many. The community team at Wargaming is very, very limited, and they rely on people like myself, I guess, as a community contributor to give some sort of thing back to the community and develop the community. And we can only do so much as well, especially without the support of the actual game company which are developing the game. And if we don't actually have a clue what they're developing before we can make any changes or give any advice as to what the community want, then what is the point of even having things like a community liaison if you're going to develop stuff straight away and it's not going to get even checked by the community to see what their thoughts are initially? And that's where a lot of the problems have come into World of Tanks console. Now, the new tanks are fun and fresh, which is the appeal of the mode, and what should be as exciting alongside the new armour models and ammunitions such as missiles and the like, but it just doesn't feel as fun as I thought it was and would be, considering that it is so new and we've been playing the same game for like 7 years. If you're someone that's played from the beta on Xbox 360, then yes, you know, I thought it was going to be brilliant. I thought we were going to bring some new fresh life to the game, but I just feel it's kind of ended up being quite flat. Now, I'm no fool, and I know all of these changes are of course experimental, and when games reach a point of stagnation that I can assure you console World of Tanks was and still is in, there is always a time to push forward and progress aspects of the game that are untested, create new ideas that are novel and exciting, and the concept of modern tanks and vehicles is of course by many World of Tanks players, whether that's World of Tanks PC, Blitz or console, interesting, as there previously has been almost no modern era vehicles, and the market for that in terms of games like War Thunder, especially not any past the 1990s for sure within World of Tanks console, has kind of led people to keep playing things like War Thunder. There is, you know, the ability to play all of the tanks, whether that's new or old, and I think that this is a market wargaming could definitely progress into. However, the execution of the console version of Modern Armour just didn't work, at least from my personal opinion. The reception both initially and currently has shown that mistakes were made, and I think it's crucial for progress of this console tank game that Wargaming listen, take warning, and split the development time into a proportional amount so that both game modes keep having content that are produced in a regular period, that the game has covered well, and to make sure your veteran and returning players are kept happy, but also provide new content to attract and maintain new players whilst actually playing as well. Now, that of which is kind of the problem currently. There isn't really a hook to grab new players. I feel like actually it's kind of like an anti-hook, like a de-hooker to World of Tanks, and that is because, you know, it's a very hard game to get into, and when you don't have tutorial systems, when you don't have advisors, when you don't have any friends that play the game, and if you're just jumping on for the first time, it's a massive steep learning curve whereby people are, you know, getting involved. And yes, they did bring in the kind of human versus AI aspect of World of Tanks console, which I think is a good kind of idea. I just don't think it was executed well enough to be able to really call it a hook, and it's definitely not promoted enough by World of Tanks in the game in terms of when you first log on, you have a tutorial or something that pushes you to actually learn the game and, you know, get involved with the game and kind of invest your time, give you a reason to actually invest your time, and that is something World of Tanks console has just not done, and I think that's where one of the kind of the linchpins is within the game and the kind of negatives associated with the game. I hope you found this video somewhat interesting and informative, trying to show you both the positives, negatives, and everything in between about the game mode, and voice many of your opinions that I get on this channel every day, every month, and of course throughout the last 8 or 9 months since I've been making content almost daily for World of Tanks console. Of course, with every single video, leave any questions, queries or opinions you may have in the comment section down below, and let's hope for both Wargaming and our sake they get this right in their next update to World of Tanks console. Of course, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to all of the channel members for supporting me personally, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.